Our speakers today will provide valuable insights into these solutions and strategies. But before going in the session, I would like to invite you all to not forget to use Slido, pose your questions, vote some of these questions, because we will come back to use these questions later on at the end of the panel, and we can have further discussion. So you can introduce yourself, but I would like to start with Ms. Ioana Chiulan first, that the war of the past 2 years has led to new forms of marine pollution. So we have now 2 dedicated projects dealing with that, projects that are funded by the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, that are trying to assess and address this problem and boost regional capacity for tackling it. So you are representing Black Sea Sierra, one of the 2 EMFAF projects. So give us some more details about the findings of the first year.
To talk a little bit about the Black Sea Sierra findings. First of all, obviously, we need to be very aware of what the Black Sea Sierra project aimed. I can say that the main objective, the scientific objectives of the Black Sea Sierra project is to identify the type of the pollutions that we find in the marine environment, mostly related with our sources or armed conflict sources. This is a very important and hard to achieve goals, because it is quite difficult to delimitate civil pollution from military pollution. And we assumed this, and since for the beginning of the project we worked together with the whole consortium. We worked to identify not only the interested emerging pollutants that we want to identify and quantify in the marine water and sediment and biota, and also tributary and lagoons, but also to find new hazardous substances that are related with this new source of pollution, the war in Ukraine. So during the first year of the project, we faced some challenges, because the Ukrainian partner was replaced for some reason. And this whole process took a while, let's say a few months, so it was quite complicated. But after we decided which will replace this important partner from Ukraine, we started to develop the methodological guide. This is the main objective for this first year of the project implementation. And each partner bring its contribution to the development of the methodological guide in terms of sampling, laboratory analysis, on-site measurements of the underwater noise pollution, and bathymetric measurements we will also carry out in this project, and trace element tracking of core sediments, undisturbed core sediments. Obviously, we established what will be the methods, the technologies, the equipments, and the procedures that we will use for both of these targets. I mean, for sampling, because we will have several campaigns for sampling. It will be for water sampling, in tributary rivers and lagoons, and 2 water campaign in the marine environment. So each of these type of sampling site requires, we can say, different different equipment, because we talk about saline or sweet surface water, so they are different.
Do you include citizens in this aspect, or not in this phase?
No,
this phase?
we
Okay.
include only water analysis, so only sediment and biota, and I think, yes, for this year and for the next year, I think in the third year will be some trainings.
Okay.
We should see about that.
Okay. Thank you for that. We will come back to Black Sea here. I don't know if you want to add something now, but discussing about chemical pollution, we know that it's not new actually in the Black Sea. However, there are some chemical compounds actually that were not very much investigated so far in the region, like the persistent chemical pollutants (PAS). We know that these have huge negative impacts both on biodiversity and humans. So, Aleksandar, I would like to understand that you being part of the SOS Zero Pole 2030 project, which is a Horizon project, so another funding opportunity for the region except of the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, which deals with many forms of pollution in a river sea approach. So how is the situation in the Danube, and what is the awareness level of the community? Because we know that the community plays a crucial role along the river basin.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity to present some new fields of research and policy action. First, what is PFAS? So it stands for per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So the abbreviation is PFAS, but these are a large group of over 10,000 persistent organic chemicals. They're used because they repel oil, can resist harsh chemicals, high temperatures, high pressure. So they have quite valuable properties in many different areas. But often they're also called forever chemicals. Because of these strong chemical bonds, they do not fall apart easily, they're not degraded in the environment. They break down quite slowly, and they tend to accumulate both in the environment and in living organisms, including in us humans. So some PFAS unfortunately have adverse health effects, and those with the highest toxicological risks have been already banned in the European Union. What is the history of PFAS? They've been produced for over 70 years, so they are around us and will probably continue to be for decades ahead. But because of their properties, they are quite widespread. Where can we find them? In household kitchen pans, in textiles such as sofa upholstery, in carpets like this, because they help not to leave spots. You can find them in waterproof clothing, you can find them in cosmetics, in paints, coatings, medical appliances, firefighting foams, so a very diverse use of applications. Precisely because they're so much desired and they have different functions, but at the same time they do not fall apart in the environment, they can also be dangerous for humans. What are the health risks? They can affect the liver, the kidney, the endocrine or the immune system. And what risk they pose is something that is still evolving. To give an example, between 2008 and 2020, the tolerable weekly intake recommendations have been reduced from hundreds to thousands of times. So even within this very close period of 12 years, the understanding of scientists of what kind of risk they pose has developed substantially. Earlier this year, it was found in blood samples from even top EU officials, and it was said that they exceeded existing safety threshold levels. Where emissions occur, they occur in the water, in the air, and this happens most often during production or end of life. So when you dispose with PFAS after the products are already going as a waste. They're less dangerous while we use the articles. So having a pen at home or using water-resistant clothing is not a substantial risk. Speaking about the region, it's not under such a big danger because there are 20 production spots in Europe, so chemical companies producing, synthesizing these chemicals, but only one of these 20 factories is in the Danube Basin. It is positioned in southern Germany, so it is at the upper flow of the Danube. So mostly what is affecting the Danube Basin and the Black Sea Basin are non-point sources. So the chemicals are coming from being used as ingredients, let's say in paints, in the textile industry, and also coming through waste. So we have diffuse or non-point sources and not chemical producers that are based in the region. What are the loads? It is still, of course, a picture that is we're trying to fill in many gaps. But from the existing research, doesn't matter how limited it is, we know that along the Danube, the load does not increase. So usually you have bigger loads along industrial sites or large cities along the Danube. What we know so far is that the total mass of PFAS from some of these thousands of substances is about 4.9 kilograms per day reaching the Black Sea, or on an annual basis, on an yearly basis, it will be something like 1.8 tons. How aware are people about PFAS? Awareness differs from country to country, even in the European Union, and including the Danube River Basin. A representative survey was conducted in 2021, and a publication from last year came out, which included 7 countries, including 3 Danube countries. The question that the researchers asked was, have you ever heard of persistent chemicals, PFAS? A very common, straightforward question. In Germany, 21% of respondents answered yes. In Hungary, 33%, and in Romania, downstream 45% said that they have heard about this. So while the majority of people everywhere in Europe have not come across the concept of forever chemicals, there's substantial variation from country to country. But of course, this is valid also for the Danube and the Black Sea region. The participants in our Living Lab, which is part of the SOS Zero Pol project that met in May this year, shared also the view that PFAS are not an issue for the societies and politicians in the region yet. Most often, the general public, also in Europe, have become aware of these persistent chemicals when there was substantial media coverage. Such events have happened in Belgium, in the Netherlands, where production is taking place, and where different areas were discovered to be contaminated, and citizens were, when they gave samples, most often in blood, it proved to be quite above safe limits. So this has become an issue in certain countries in Europe where they have discovered high levels of pollution around usually production sites. So since we're not facing such an issue, it hasn't very much come to the region. Chemists, civil protection experts, also from the Black Sea region, are better informed, of course, about the persistent chemicals due to their professional position and knowledge. But stakeholders from different sectors in our Living Lab expected that the topic will grow in importance in the coming years.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, as was mentioned earlier today from Mr. Econom and Mr. Salihoglu, the strategic research and innovation agenda plays a crucial role. So research is more and more coming in, but it's very important to raise awareness also to the stakeholders and the people around that we need to see how to move forward. Considering now that we have new forms of pollution, as I mentioned before, we have 2 EMFAF projects. One is Response, which is mostly building on training tools and curriculum in order to have design actually the effectiveness of actions for identification, observation, mapping and mitigation of marine pollution. Actually, you can find more information in the poster sessions outside. But I would like to understand from you, Ioana, how Black Sea Sierra is collaborating, has any complementarities with the Response project, because you are both sister EMFAF projects. So what can we expect either as joint results or any new opportunities that these two projects can come together?
Yes, I understand the question. So I think these two projects are very complementary, because we are addressing different pollutants, let's say. For instance, this year we made some preliminary studies on marine water sampling, and of course we started with the most common pollutants, such as the well-known chemical parameters such as nitrates or phosphate or total petroleum hydrocarbons. We also looked for the contamination with heavy metals. But the most important and difficult task of the Black Sea Sierra project is to find how the munition compounds used in the war in Ukraine are affecting the biodiversity in the Black Sea region. This task is, as I said before, is quite complicated, because these munition compounds are very difficult to find and quantify in such a large amount of water. This is a first issue. Another issue is that actually we should look for post-blast combustion, because they explode, and the chemicals that are generating during the explosion impact the marine environment, the water, also the sweetwater environment. And probably there are some chemical reaction with the substances that we can find in water and sediment. So this is the major difference between the Response and Black Sea Sierra project, along with other differences such as I've understood, there are different targeted stakeholders,
yeah, of course.
if I can say so. And we are focused mostly on analysis, sampling and chemical analysis. And I think Response, the partners from the Response project are focusing mostly on training.
Training and creating.
Yes, so this is how we we work together and will be complementary.
Actually, tackling the new forms of marine pollution includes a lot of different stakeholders and actors in the region. We know, and that, for example, Blue Ink Black Sea project from World Bank with the participation of Black Sea Economic Cooperation in the past have done some efforts during discussing about the nutrients and so on. So synergies are really important to move forward, and discussing about that. We know that also under the Mission Ocean we have the EcoDali project that has to do with the Danube River Sea Basin. So I would like to ask you, Aleksandar, how can citizens and policy support the goal of zero pollution in the Black Sea region? Do you think it's realistic to achieve a toxic-free environment by 2050, considering that it's set in the EU Zero Pollution Action Plan?
Of course, reducing pollution is an essential sustainability goal, and forever chemicals pose a long-term threat to both the public and the environment, to public health more specifically. So toxic substances are transported easily over the air, through the river flows, through the seas, and they pose the same threat both to rich and poor, to humans and to marine organisms. So it makes sense to direct efforts, resources and energy to reduce the exposure to persistent chemicals. So the goal itself is worth pursuing. What is already being done and what more could be done? Certain substances, those that are considered most toxic, have been already banned. Something else that is coming very shortly ahead of us is the introduction of new measures. So main concern is the existence of chemicals in food and water for human use. So the Drinking Water Directive, which was recast in 2020, is one of the tools that is seeking to fill in the gaps about our knowledge of PFAS in the environment, especially directed to human use. So the technical guidelines for the analytical methods were published last month, so in August this year. Total PFAS for drinking water should not exceed 0.5 micrograms per liter, according to the Drinking Water Directive, and single substances cannot be above 0.1 micrograms per liter. And these thresholds, these limits should be achieved by January 26. In order to happen this means that next year, in 25, water supply companies, public health authorities should start monitoring the drinking water in all of the European Union. Mm-hmm. So we know how to do this. The methods have been already confirmed, and it is up to public authorities to take action in order to achieve these levels at the beginning of 26, if there are any exceeding events or occurrences. So why is this important for reducing the total load of persistent chemicals? Because there are a lot of gaps, we don't know a lot of things. And introducing this all over Europe means that we'll gradually acquire a database, data sets of what is the situation on the ground, and measures could be taken. What could consumers, citizens do? This was one of the main concerns of our living lab that took place in May. So there's substantial need for better understanding and knowledge, of course, of the sources, of the quantities, the pathways of PFAS. What informed consumers can do is to make changes in their daily lives so that they can avoid or diminish the use of articles containing PFAS, or properly disposing of them in order to limit the distribution of persistent chemicals in the environment. They can also support the information of groups or connect with existing communities, networks to raise awareness about PFAS and support informed consumer choices. As an example of this, the project SOS Zero Goal 2030 has already published infographics, story maps that are available on the project site and are describing in plain language what are the pathways, what are the risks for the public. In addition to the scientific and evidence-based approach, the European Chemical Strategy for Sustainability that is trying to achieve zero pollution by 2050 employs also a so-called value-based approach. Mm-hmm. And it is distinguishing between essential and non-essential use of persistent chemicals in different articles on different goods. So the plan, of course, is to phase out persistent chemicals except for uses that are deemed essential for society. So a survey of EU citizens, quite a massive one, produced in 7 countries with over 8,000 respondents, so over 1,000 people in each of these 7 countries were part, including in Romania, Hungary and other Danube countries, so that there are substantial differences of how the public perceives what is essential and what is not essential. What is relatively easy to reach is what people think is a non-essential use. So it's because, of course, there are different lobbies in industry saying, okay, we need to keep the use of these chemicals as part of our recipes, as part of the ingredients we use. The public says, okay, to give just an example, probably we don't need persistent chemicals in cosmetics. We don't need them in products that are coming in contact with food or with drinking water. But they may be necessary for medical uses, because it's hard to find the substitutes. But what is considered essential, what is considered non-essential, varies substantially from one country to another. This means that the policymakers will have to strike a balance between the scientific-based advice and what is considered as substantial values for the public. So it is a question that is not resolved yet and will come in the next years. So there's a need for better information, for transparency and dialogue with stakeholders, with the general public, in order to make a proper public choice, how to deal with this new environmental challenge. And to answer the question if we can achieve zero pollution by 2050, say that if these conditions, that we can combine the science, the proper dialogue with stakeholders, with citizens, then we can expect at least to move closer to a toxic-free environment.
Okay, that's very important to hear. Hopefully our audience will pose some questions on Slido that we'll visit after this. I would like to pose a very quick question to both of you actually. How do you think that the Common Maritime Agenda can support your activities and your efforts towards a more sustainable and pollution-free Black Sea region? I will start with you, Ioana.
It's a tricky question.
Yeah, we heard before that the Common Maritime Agenda brings together stakeholders and so on. But we understand how important it is, but how do you see that from your perspective as coordinating the Black Sea Sphere, representing Black Sea Sphere?
Well, for me as a chemist, actually the most important thing is to have the necessary equipment in my laboratory.
Yeah, I understand.
Let's be honest with this. And the other thing, yes, absolutely, we have to raise awareness of the people, both very young or older people that work with chemicals. Because when Aleksandar just said something about that, I remember that I worked in the pharmaceutical company for 6 months, so they used to dispose the rest of the chemical vials, of course containing pharmaceutical compounds, directly to the the water. The water is yes. So imagine the impact. So it's a difficult task.
Yeah. Actually, you mentioned that you need for your laboratory machinery, and so far the Common Maritime Agenda actually is promoting a lot of different funding opportunities. So, and the Black Sea Assistance Mechanism is supporting this.
Yes, I need another project to determine the microplastic.
So you see that already it could be of real support, even what you have in mind for your laboratory. Okay. Thank you. I will go actually to you, Aleksandar, and how do you think that Common Maritime Agenda could support?
I think that it's time to put the persistent chemicals on the Common Maritime Agenda and support the public awareness, monitoring and improved understanding of the impact of PFAS on public health and the environment. Forever chemicals will not disappear in the short term because they are persistent. But we need to better understand their impacts, advise the public and the authorities on how to reduce the harm they cause, find innovative ways of cleaning up hotspots where they exist, and discover alternatives for many of the uses and applications these chemicals have. So I think that's the way the Common Maritime Agenda can integrate this knowledge.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Slido to see what we have from our audience, and if we can take just a few questions, because we are close to close this plenary. Okay. If you see any questions that you would like to take, feel free, but I will go through them to see which one. As we are in Moldova, actually, are you aware of any initiatives in Moldova that or any way that the Republic of Moldova can participate to carry on research in PFAS? Are you collaborating with any stakeholder from Moldova?
Not yet. Actually, my organization is the only one from the Black Sea region, because the project is trying to cover 3 different marine regions. One is the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, and the Northeast Atlantic. So it's a European-wide project. But what could be a kind of a policy idea for Moldova is also look at the drinking water directive, look at the existing already established methods, and try to implement them even as in a pilot phase. because that's something that is happening also in Romania. It's happening along the Danube, and you could see what is the situation.
So more opportunities for collaboration.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that can be both picked from European policy and from citizen activities or stakeholders.
Okay. We have a very specific question in fire extinguishers. I don't know if it's something that you can discuss, if contaminated sites be located in airports, ports, or training sites.
So there's it has become a kind of a famous project that termed PFAS Forever Chemicals. It was published in the French newspaper Le Monde with partners from many different countries. You can find them. You can find, searching for forever chemicals, you'll find a map. And usually among the polluted sites are training sites to airports, military sites where fire extinguishers are used. As far as I know from representatives of the industry, there are some alternatives to changing the fire extinguishing foams, and producers are working on it. But it is, of course, the sites that are already contaminated would need to be cleaned in the near future.
And the last question, maybe for you, Ioana, we have a question about the last 2.5 years about the war, and if you have seen any evolution in the pollution, any data numbers that you can share, and how war has changed that?
This is a very good question because, I work in the Black Sea Sierra project for only 5 months. So as I said, I started to analyze some marine water samples and sediment samples. And obviously I wanted to access some database with historical data about the Black Sea Sierra contaminants. I couldn't find something very relevant in literature, scientific literature. And yes, we have by now some data, and we are still working on that because it is important to compare. We have some numbers, but it's very important to explain that numbers, how this impact the marine biodiversity. The dolphins or the fish or something.
The importance of data.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, this is an ongoing process.
Okay. Thank you very much, both. Now I would invite my colleague Matteo to come and run the third plenary session. Thank you very much, both. Thank you.